Hi, I'm Larry. Welcome back to my studio. Today I'm working on a pastel that we started last time, and it's of two geese. It's a picture I took at the Madrona Marsh here in Southern California, and I want to show you one of the ways that I'm going to make these birds stand out against this dark background here. If you'll notice, and I look for this when I'm taking my pictures, is that there's a lot of light reflections. These are reflections of reeds and things in the back here. And even though it does get a little bit darker in this, I'm going to use my artistic license and make those light reeds in the back. That way the heads of my birds will show up, and then it'll go off into some dark shadowy reeds over here. And that's one thing, as an artist, you get to do that. You have a license as soon as you pick up a brush or chalk, and you can use it to your advantage. We try to make things look better. So I'm going to start, find my color here, and again, I want to put in things in the direction that they're growing. So these reeds are kind of growing straight up and down. Some of them may turn a little bit. And this is, again, you're going to hear me say this a lot, this is underpainting. Underpainting sets kind of the tone of things. And there'll be a lot of colors back in here. There's obviously these kind of straw colored ones, but there's also some green ones or some orange ones. Don't be afraid to use color. Throw in color. Before there was the internet, there was PBS. And there's this little lady on that she did pastels, and she, encouraged everybody to get their fingers dirty. This is just another color, that pinky color that I used there. Throw some of that in. And she would, what I liked was she did animals, and I love to do animals. My students can't complain when I'm doing this at home. We're doing more animals. I don't want to do animals. Anyway, she would put weird colors in, and she would, you'd think, okay, it's, why is she putting pink in there, or blue or lavender or something? And it was, when she got done, it looked really, really good. I'm gonna take that. I'm gonna take some green, because I know there's some green in here. Some of these reeds are still growing. Now the reason I do this before I start working on there, I get the background in. If I go over the birds a little bit, it's not going to make any difference. Now I could have put this in first. This is just my own personal preference. I want to find, let's see, this kind of orangey color. Throw that in there. I'll blend this in just a little bit, because I don't want it to be a real strong design back there. I want it to be soft. So I'll come back in and and soften it up. Take things off the page. Now I'm going to pick up some dark because there are some darks in there. This is some of the dark brown like I used in the birds. It's always good to repeat colors. Notice I'm not being real careful. I'm just kind of thinking reeds and colors and things. I'm just throwing that in there. Sometimes you take things a little bit too seriously. Over here I'm going to throw some of that brown in. Take it off the top. So things just don't stop right at the edge. They continue to go on. I may do some of this off camera, so I'm not spending my whole time doing that. I'm going to pick up, this is a dark blue. Throw that in there too. Now, when I get this all blended, I'll come back in and put some detail back in. But not all of it. Now, I like to work dark against light. So I've got some dark down here around where it's light on the birds, and then light around dark. Use that contrast. Contrast is the difference between light and dark. This is just a purple. I'm going to throw some of that purple over here in the shadows. What in the world is this woman doing? Trust me. You're going to have to trust me. Throw a little bit of that in here. Don't want to have a unique color. Unique color is just a color that shows up one place and doesn't seem to have any other reason for being there. So throw it around. Okay, so now I'm going to take and I'm going to blend this. I'll do this just with my finger and just lightly come up. I'll be careful around the birds. Now, it's not to say that I can't come back in and add more light if I think I need it, which I think I may. But giving this soft, fuzzy background will help bring the birds back into focus. Have to be a little careful around their heads. I am trying to stay with the direction that these things are growing. Over here. Okay, now I'm going to take a little break evaluate this. I may make a few little adjustments on here while I'm off camera, but I'll let you know what I've done. So give me just a second. Okay, I came in and I refocused a little more down here at the bottom. As I'm looking at my photograph, I'm seeing that there's reeds and water kind of in combination back here. So instead of just making these straight, what I want to do now is just come through and just go across and blur, because this is going to be water. I did a little bit of redefining some of my edges on my birds just so that I knew where they were. But when you're doing like water, I found one of the easiest ways for me to create that sense of movement and water is that you have what's up above it, but then you come straight across down here and kind of wiggle that. I'll do some more of that here later. And I'm looking back in here. But that kind of puts some of that movement of the water in. So I'm gonna take some similar colors to what I had here and just kind of wiggle them down, wiggle them in the water here. Because this water is a little closer, so you can see a little more detail in it. Things are going to break up a little bit more. There's some of that wiggling over here. I'll get the rings in from the water later. You want to. I can't paint pastels the same way I paint my acrylics. Is that I do what's underneath first. I don't worry so much about the detail of it. I want to get the base color in. Try not to. Come across, blend. Don't need to do that right now. Let's get some other colors in there. Down in here, they kind of all blend together. So I'm just coming in, I'm using the side of my chalk here and just throwing in some color, but water is flat, so some of these have to be kind of flat here to make the water look flat. And let's see, there is some blue. This is a kind of a dark blue. I'm going to throw some of that in there because the water reflects what's above it, so there may be some sky and shadows, maybe even some greens if there's any trees around. Water's kind of fun to paint, but you really have to look at it and figure out what's going on with it. Gonna make it a little darker down here at the bottom. It's called vignetting when you darken the corners. It kind of focuses the viewer into your painting. Come up here. Throw some of that in here. There'll be some of the reflections in there of shadows in the grasses as well as the grasses themselves. Let's get some of that. I'm going to take a darker green here. Throw some of that green. If there's green up there, there's going to be green down here in the reflections. It's hard to tell where these things go from being the reflection and then being the actual thing themselves. So again, I'm going to take and kind of pull straight down and then come across. You build things. You don't just go straight for the kill. You come in and you build things. There's a shadow that's going to be under these birds. But right now, I'm just trying to get the idea of water and reeds back in here. Straight up and down, and then across. Now remember, if you want to do this one, you can go to my blog spot and get the reference photo and the drawing. There's also an email address there if you want to send me an email with your questions or comments. I'm just looking to see what else I can put in. This is kind of a lavender color. It's kind of a soft color. I'll blend this out here in a minute. Put some detail into your shadows. It doesn't take much, just a little bit. But if you were there, you would see detail. You would see the reeds and things. Your camera may not pick that up. And I'll say that again. The camera has its limitations. So when you're there, pay attention to what's going on. Okay, yeah, it's looking kind of messy right now, but actually it's a good messy. I'm going to throw some of that lavender stuff back in here. There's always purple in your shadows. Looks good against that yellow too. It's complement to yellow. Okay, I'm gonna take an arm off camera. I didn't realize that. Working on that. So going to take a little break here and readjust my camera. And we're getting close to having this thing pretty much underpainted. Be right back. Okay, I'm back, and one of the things I want to let you know when I'm taking a little break like this, one of the things I'm doing is that I'm getting up and I'm standing back and I'm looking at everything in my painting here. One of the things I noticed, and you may notice the change, is that when I'm talking and trying to draw or paint, a lot of times I do things that afterwards I look at and go, why? Why did I do that? And one of the things I had, these reeds here in the back are the actual reeds, and then down here is reflections, and I use this as, this is the photograph, and I can see here where the reflections are, and then where the reeds are physically, you know, and where the reflections are. And so once I realized that, I had the reflections going in the wrong way. One of the things when you're doing reflections, the reflections have to go in the same direction as what they are reflecting. So if this is going off to my right here, the reflection also has to come off and come towards the right. You know, I had them kind of going off to the left, and so I've made some changes. I'll show you what I did. I want to suggest the water a little more, so all I really did there is just kind of come in and just blend some of that in, going sideways. With water, I found you either go side to side, you know, horizontally or vertically, and that horizontal will kind of create the wiggles in the water. So I just, you know, the last break, I just kind of went in and cleaned things up. And I'll show you what I mean down here in the water here. So like this reed here, I'm just going to come in and just wiggle, and just this one goes off, so to the left, so the reflection has to go off to the left. This one is straight, so I'm just kind of wiggling straight down. There's another one there. Here's a little one that comes to the right. So be aware of that. You want to get your reflections in, and then I'll just kind of come in and tap and kind of do like a little horizontal tap, just to kind of smudge it and get it to blend in. Same thing over here in the darker areas. You know, if you're going to come in and put in, like, say a reed that's coming up like that and coming off or going in behind, their reflections have to also come at the angle, same angle. So you end up with kind of a V if they're straight up and down. And then just kind of like touch a little bit. Just smear them just a little bit. Sometimes just touching, tapping picks up enough of the chalk to make it look like it's been in moving water. So here also around the bottoms you'll have little ripples and things. So if you know where you want the bottoms of your reeds, you can put in little ripples. Don't make them round, make them elliptical. I don't have anything to show you, but you want to have in water, you want to put ellipses in. That'll keep the water looking flat. Again, just kind of come back in, just kind of tap it. Remember, we don't want a lot of super sharp detail in the background here. The eye is attracted to sharp edges, so I just want to come in and soften that. I'm going to work a little bit more here with some reeds. You know, this is just kind of what I did when I was off camera. You know, I can take a little bit of, this is just white. I could take a light blue and just kind of come around the base and just make that little ripple right there where the reeds might be moving in the water. Let me find a light blue. You know, where it goes into like a shadow area, you'll find that things are a little bit more on the blue side. Remember, when we have shadows, we need to have blues and purples. Okay, so that's really all I did when I took the break, did a little bit more work down here, just putting color in. I just took some color, like this color, and just kind of came in horizontal strokes, just fill in some color. This is surrounded with trees and reeds and other things, so there may be a lot of things above us that we just don't see, and water reflects what is above it. It's not a mirror reflection, as you might think, but it's a reflection of what's above it. So now what I want to do is kind of put in the, pull down. That just blurs a little bit. I also did the legs, which are very similar to doing the neck. Just used the black and blue and then just kind of blended them together. Now I'm looking at my reference material, and this goose here is reflected back here. I'm going to take my dark blue. I'll probably add a little black to it later on. But you kind of see her, and I'm just going across with this. I haven't started the ripples in the water yet, but I want to kind of get that started with this. That comes down there. I'm going to take some of the black. Now another thing that this does is that I've got a lighter thing here, which is the rear end of this goose, but it'll be contrast between the light and the dark of the shadow that's behind it. Look for those things and use them to your advantage. You know, just kind of lightly blend those two things together. Now the water is going to start looking more and more like water the more we do here. Same down here. There's ripples in the water. It's seeing the underside of this goose. It kind of breaks up in here. Here's my darker blue. Just kind of come in, throw some of that dark blue in with the black. There's a little bit of that gray right in there. That's a reflection of above it. but I'm just using sideways marks to create this. Then sideways blending. That'll keep the water looking flat. If you start going off on different directions, the water's going to look like it's standing up, or you've got a tsunami or something coming in. Okay, I'm looking back and forth. May want to put a little bit of that dark in back here, because just to suggest some shadows in the water. Okay, we've just about got this underpainted. Just going to come in with a little lighter color here and blend that right up against the goose. Now I'm going to break again, check what I've done, and then I'm going to focus in more down here on the bottom. So I'll be right back. Now I was talking about ellipses before, and this is a really good example of ellipses. If we were looking down at this pattern in the water, it would look like circles. It would look like rings or circles. But when you're looking at them from the side, you get what's called a foreshortened view. And so they end up looking more like oblongs. And this is for those of you who haven't done any drawing or aren't sure. But notice how these ellipses here keep the water looking flat. And that's what we're going to be doing here with this. Now I'm putting this right down here so that I can see it as I'm painting. And I'm going to be coming in and just starting some of these ellipses are a little bit closer together. Let's see, is that the one I want? Yeah, I think it's this one. Okay. Now they'll kind of break up a little bit as they move away from the source of what's causing them. They hit other ripples and things, so it's not a solid line. And as they go into shadows, they'll change to a different color. It's a little bit hard for me to get all of this in without getting my hand in the way. But if you'll notice, if you have the photograph, and you can get the photograph and the other reference material by going to my blog spot, and you'll find the reference photo and the drawing for this. But you'll notice that they're a little further apart here than they are in the back. That's another part of the foreshortening. And there's also it looks like there's some kind of golden ones back here. They switch from blue to gold depending on where they are in the water. This blue is probably reflecting the light from the sky above it, and then as these go back, there's probably more reeds and things in the back here that are being reflected. Let's see. I want to get a little bit. Let's see, is that the color? Yeah, there's a little bit of a bluer color here. I will come back in and blend these a little bit. There's this color down in here. Do a little bit of chalk blending, as well as a little bit of getting my fingers dirty. But there's different colors in there. There's also some lavenders. I'm seeing down in this corner there are some lavenders. Come across, maybe there's some more that light blue that comes into there. Now we've just about got all of our underpainting done. And you think, oh my God, when is this ever going to stop? Well, underpainting is probably going to take up about 90% of your time. And that's just the way the game is played. This is like the foundation of your whole painting, is putting in this underpainting. And then when you put in the details and things like that, that is the decoration. That's bringing in the furniture, putting pictures on the wall. That is the finishing touches. So yes, the underpainting takes some time, but it is worth it. Okay, I'm just going to come in and just lightly blend these. This is water, so these are just like little ripples, and they're soft because they're rounded. And I will come back in, seeing something right now that I need to come in and just suggest a little more flatness to my ripples. Now everybody has a different way of doing water. This is what I found works for me. But if you find something else, and I'll say this about everything, if you take a teacher and you find something else that works better for you, that's what you use. You know, I am not the end all or be all of pastel painting. You know, I just do what works for me, and I try to pass along that knowledge. You know, I'm not trying to show off or anything. I just want you to learn. All right, and here there's a dark. There's dark that goes right through there because that's where he's standing. And then there's also a little bit of light that's kind of reflected up in there. Again, I'll take my little tool here. Now you can use what's called a stumpy. Let's see if I have mine handy. Yeah. Okay, this is a stumpy. This is just wound up tight paper. The problem I find with this is it seems to take off more pastel than it moves around, whereas this kind of just comes in and blends like your finger. You can also use a Q-tip, and if you go in where they have the makeup and things, you'll find these really tight Q-tips that have a kind of rounded end on one side and a pointed end on the other. Those work pretty good. Just going to come in right in here. There's a little bit of, oops, let's try this blue. But you know, sometimes your fingers, even somebody with little fingers like me, they're just a little bit too fat. Okay, so I'm not going to spend all the time going through and blending everything for you, but I am, you know, I am blending mostly like the bottom edges of this. And I'll go back and I'll reassess it off camera, and I'll do a little bit more work on it. And then when we come back, I am hoping that we start the final process of putting in the detail on the geese and in the water, and have a nice pastel painting at the end. So please come back and look at part 3, I guess it is, and watch me finish this up. So remember to call your family, your friends, and check in on them. Try to stay safe, but most of all, keep painting, and I will see you again in class next time. Thank you for watching.